All right, first grade, there's kind of a tricky thing that happens when we say or write sentences that talks about pronouns. Now, pronouns, we talked about a little last week, is a word that takes the place of people's names. So instead of saying, Mrs. Bilby has blonde hair, Mrs. Bilby has blue eyes, Mrs. Bilby is tall, you could say, Mrs. Bilby has blonde hair, Mrs. Bilby is tall. She has blue eyes. So I and me are some of those pronouns that we use. Instead of saying my name, I wouldn't want to walk around and say, hello, Mrs. Bilby tells you good morning. I would come up to you and say, hi, I would like to tell you good morning. So I and me are some of these pronouns that we use, these I and me pronouns. You're going to hear those and you're going to say them a lot when you speak and when you write. Okay, so we're trying to decide when to use I and when to use me. So this rule right here says use I in the subject of a sentence. We've talked about this before. The subject is what or who the sentence is about. So this subject is Sarah and I. Okay, now we could say we, Sarah and I, or we went to the pond. But if we were trying to decide if we would say Sarah and I or Sarah and me, you're always going to use I in the subject of the sentence. Okay, and then when we use me, it's going to be in the predicate of the sentence. Usually the predicate is at the end of the sentence, end of a sentence, but what a predicate is what happens in the sentence. So in this, the subject of this sentence would be duck. Okay, duck is the subject of that sentence. The duck ran, that's the thing that they do, away from who? That's the predicate, Sarah and me. Okay, so it says always name yourself last. So see how it says me and I after the person's name? It's a rule. It says always name yourself last. You can kind of think about that as almost being polite. You'd let somebody go into the room before you. You'd hold the door for someone else. Think about that with your words to the I and me. So I have a worksheet for you to do, and I'm kind of going to explain this worksheet. There are 2 pages. If you want to print it out, if mom and dad can print and you want to try to print and cut, that's fine. If you want to just make a table, you can really just write I. Mrs. Bilby's going to try to write it. You could just write with a piece of paper, I and me. You could make a line down the middle and even make a line across and make what we call a T-chart. So you don't have to print this out if you don't want to. But these sentences are the second page of this. And what it wants you to do is cut out these sentences and fill in the blanks. In the blanks, you're either going to have I or me. Okay, you're either going to have I or me in these blanks, and then you're going to write them on and glue them in whatever column you think they would go in. So if you want to look at that, you might want to go back to the video and pause this to figure this out. This is a really tricky worksheet. I know that this is a tricky one, so if this is really hard, don't get frustrated, first grade. Just give it your best shot, okay? I know I'm not there. You and mom and dad, or you and a brother or sister, or you by yourself could do your very best work and then see if you got it right. Or you could say, you know what, I still got good work. As long as you're training your brain, Mrs. Bilby is pleased with that. So take a look. Joe and blank went to the zoo. Would it be Joe and me or Joe and I? Let's think. Sarah and I went to the pond. Does that sound a little bit like Joe and I went to the zoo? I think so. So you're going to take your pencil and you would write I. Then you would cut this out and you would glue it on the I section. You would glue that chunk of paper right there. So I want you to try that with the rest of them and see how you do. I'm going to go back to the rule page just so you can see one last look at this. You're going to use I, first grade. You're going to use I in the subject of the sentence, what the sentence is about, I, and you're going to use me in the predicate of the sentence, which is often at the end, not always, and you're always going to name yourself last, me or I. All right, so enjoy. I hope that your brain gets a little bit trained, and I hope this is a little bit tricky for you because you've never seen this before. So it should be a little bit tricky for you, but don't get too frustrated. Just always try your best. Thanks, first graders.